Imagine waking up to silence so profound, you can hear your own heartbeat echoing against raw steel beams overhead. That's not a dream. That's not some far-off fantasy reserved for the ultra-rich or the hopelessly romantic. That's the reality of living in a desert contemporary barndominium. And if you've never heard those three words strung together before, well, buckle up, because what I'm about to tell you is going to rewire everything you thought you knew about home. See, there's this moment that happens when you first step into one of these spaces. It's not quite shock, not quite recognition. It's something in between, like your brain is trying to reconcile two opposing truths at the same time. On one hand, you're standing in what is essentially a barn, a structure that for centuries has represented utility, simplicity, agricultural necessity. On the other hand, you're surrounded by floor-to-ceiling glass, concrete that's been polished to a mirror shine, and design choices that wouldn't look out of place in a Manhattan penthouse. And somehow, impossibly, it all makes perfect sense. But let's back up for a second, because to understand why desert contemporary barndominiums are suddenly everywhere, why they're dominating design boards and making architects weep with envy, you need to understand what went wrong first. For decades, we've been building the same houses. Cookie-cutter suburban boxes with vinyl siding and granite countertops that all came from the same three quarries. We convinced ourselves that home meant beige walls and walk-in closets and open-concept kitchens that all looked identical. And somewhere along the way, we stopped asking the most important question of all: does this place make me feel alive? Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, because it's a simple way to show your love for these incredible designs. Enter the Barndominium. Born out of Texas practicality, where ranchers realized they could live above or beside their workshops and barns, cutting costs and embracing a kind of rugged simplicity that felt, well, honest. But here's where it gets interesting. Take that concept, that stripped-down, no-nonsense approach to shelter, and transplant it into the desert. Not just any desert, but the kind of landscape that has inspired artists and mystics and architects for generations. The kind of place where the light doesn't just illuminate, it transforms. Where the horizon isn't just a line, it's a promise. And then add contemporary design. Not rustic, not farmhouse. Contemporary. Clean lines. Minimalist philosophy. The kind of aesthetic restraint that makes every single choice feel intentional, weighted, meaningful. What you get is something that shouldn't work on paper, but in reality feels like the most natural thing in the world. Picture this. A metal structure, standing alone in an ocean of sand and scrub brush. Mountains cutting jagged silhouettes in the distance. The building itself is low-slung, horizontal, like it grew out of the earth rather than being imposed upon it. The exterior is a study in contrasts. Corrugated metal in shades of charcoal or weathered bronze, paired with smooth concrete panels, maybe some reclaimed wood that's been silvered by sun and time. Already, before you even step inside, there's a tension happening. Industrial meets organic. Harsh meets soft. Permanent meets impermanent. But it's when you cross that threshold that the real magic reveals itself. The first thing that hits you is the space. Not just the square footage, though barndominiums are notoriously generous in that regard. No, it's the volume. Vaulted ceilings that soar 20, 30 feet overhead, with exposed steel trusses creating geometric patterns against the sky. In a traditional home, you'd hide those structural elements, bury them behind drywall and drop ceilings. Here, they're the entire point. Their architecture is honesty, showing you exactly how this building stands, how it breathes, how it holds you. And then there's the light. The light. Desert contemporary barndominiums have this almost spiritual relationship with natural light. We're talking massive windows, entire walls of glass, sliding doors that span 15 feet and disappear into pocket walls, erasing the boundary between inside and outside. But here's the genius part. It's not just about letting light in. It's about controlling it. Deep overhangs that block the high desert sun during summer months. Strategically placed clear-story windows that bounce light off those soaring ceilings, creating an ambient glow rather than harsh glare. Skylights positioned to track the movement of stars at night. Living in one of these spaces means your day is choreographed by the sun. Mornings arrive in shades of pink and gold that paint your concrete floors in watercolor. Afternoons bring drama, sharp shadows from those exposed beams creating ever-changing patterns across your walls. And evenings? Evenings are when the desert reveals its true colors. Purples and oranges so saturated they seem unreal, all framed perfectly by your glass walls like a living painting that never repeats itself. We share new content regularly to help you create spaces you love, so don't forget to subscribe. The material palette in a desert contemporary barndominium is where raw meets refined. We're talking concrete floors, but not cold and industrial. These are stained, scored, polished to a sheen that catches light like water. In some spaces, they're left deliberately rough, aggregate exposed, celebrating imperfection. The walls might be simple drywall, but they're painted in shades that echo the landscape outside. Warm whites, soft taupes, occasionally a deep charcoal that makes the light seem even more precious. Then you've got the metal. Steel beams, iron accents, maybe a blackened steel fireplace that rises like a monolith in the center of the space. But it's not cold. Somehow, surrounded by all that warmth from the desert outside, all that light, the metal feels grounding. It feels necessary, and the wood, always wood. Maybe it's reclaimed barn wood, creating a literal connection to the structure's agricultural roots. Or it's sleek walnut cabinetry, providing warmth and luxury. Sometimes it's both in the same space, high and low dancing together, creating depth and interest without cluttering the visual field. One of the most striking features is how these homes handle the kitchen. In a traditional contemporary home, the kitchen might be sleek to the point of being sterile. In a traditional barndominium, it might be all rustic charm and farmhouse sinks. But the desert contemporary version? It's both and neither. Think massive islands made from a single slab of concrete or stone, thick enough to feel substantial, permanent. Matte black fixtures that echo those steel beams overhead. Open shelving made from steel and wood, displaying ceramics and glassware like a curated collection. Industrial range hoods that don't apologize for their size. And always, that connection to the outside. Maybe the kitchen opens directly onto a covered patio, or there's a window perfectly positioned above the sink, so washing dishes means watching the sun set behind distant mesas. The bedroom spaces in these homes reject the notion that a bedroom needs to be a closed-off, separate cocoon. Instead, they're often partially open to the main living area, separated by glass walls or half walls, or sometimes just by careful furniture placement and changes in ceiling height. It's about maintaining that sense of volume, that flow of space and light, while still creating zones of intimacy. Master bedrooms might occupy one end of the structure, with glass walls on 2 or 3 sides, giving you a nearly 180-degree view of the landscape. You fall asleep under stars visible through skylights, wake up to mountains glowing in morning light, and bathrooms? They become spa-like retreats. Concrete soaking tubs positioned to face those expansive windows. Walk-in showers with rainfall heads and walls that are partially open, because when your nearest neighbor is miles away, privacy comes from geography rather than walls. Stone, steel, wood, glass, all the same materials from the rest of the home, creating continuity, making the bathroom feel like a natural extension rather than a separate entity. But here's what really sets the desert contemporary barndominium apart. What elevates it from just another design trend to something that feels almost revolutionary. It's the way these homes negotiate with their environment. Traditional desert architecture often tries to shut the desert out. Thick walls, small windows, turning inward to create a climate-controlled oasis. But the contemporary barndominium does something different. It engages. Those massive glass walls,